After hundreds of years of chaos, mankind has finally emerged from the ruins of nuclear war. This world of the distant future has once again flourished under the guidance of the Great King, who harnessed the power of the 8 Eyes to rebuild the planet. These strange jewels of power were formed at the eyes, or center, of the 8 nuclear explosions which nearly destroyed the Earth. In the wrong hands, the 8 Eyes could cause untold destruction, and now they have been seized by the Great King's 8 Dukes in a desperate bid to gain control of the world for themselves. They have banished the king to the nuclear wastelands, and already their squabbling threatens to plunge the world into war once again. The task of retrieving the 8 Eyes falls to you, Orin the Falconer, the bravest and mightiest of the king's guardsmen. With your fighting falcon, Cutlass, you must penetrate each of the 8 Dukes' castles. There you will face the Duke's soldiers and battle strange nuclear mutants such as living skeletons, giant wasps, and mudmen. You must defeat the monstrous boss of each castle to retrieve the jewel of power he guards. Then, to complete your quest, return the 8 Eyes to the altar of peace to await the return of the Great King so that he may finish rebuilding the earth. Your reward will be the eternal gratitude of all mankind. And this is 8 Eyes, brought to us by Thinking Rabbit and Taxan, released in 1990, and an often talked about game. At least it was back in the early 90s. I don't hear too much about it anymore. What can I tell you? It's pretty much a Castlevania clone. Very hard, though. Very hard. As you heard, set in a post-apocalyptic future, we have the 8 Jewels of Power, known as the 8 Eyes. Pretty much, yeah. Gameplay consists of 8 levels, each set in the castle of one of the Dukes. At the completion of each level, Orin receives a new sword. The player can choose to play each of the first 7 castles in any order, though the boss at the end of each is vulnerable to only one sword. It is therefore easier to play the levels in a particular order. There are hints about the correct order hidden throughout the game, and only after each has been completed can the House of Ruth be played. After the House of Ruth has been cleared and the 8 Eyes recovered, the player must return the jewels to the Altar of Peace. At this point, the jewels must be placed in a particular order, or the game is lost. Hints about the order are also hidden throughout the game. 8 Eyes features a co-op mode in which one player controls Orin and the other player controls Cutlass, and in the single-player mode, the player has limited control of both characters simultaneously, making the game significantly more difficult. The gameplay and graphical style are noticeably similar to Castlevania. It says, and thus it shall be. Never played this game. I always saw a lot about it. It's obviously fairly early in a lot of the game lists, being one of the few NES games to actually have a number for a title, along with like the 1940s games and 10-Yard Fight. Thinking Rabbit, who developed this game, worked on quite a few games, oddly enough. Only a couple of them made it to America, though. One was Sukoban Deluxe, and there was this one. Everything else was just Japan. A lot of NEC PC-88 games, some MSX games, a couple of Sharp X68000 games, one called The Man I Love, Hydlide 3. Didn't even know they made a Hydlide 2. The last game they are credited with making was a PlayStation game in 1997, and it's Japanese names. I ain't even gonna try and do that. What I can tell you about 8 Eyes, though, it is very hard, but not frustrating to the point where you're gonna want to stop playing it. I wanted to keep playing it to see if I could get any farther, but it is a little ridiculous sometimes.